Mr. Boydston here, and today we're going to talk about elements of poetry, rhyme, and rhythm. Poetry can be a fun and enriching way to tell a story. It also can be a great way to express your emotions. Like stories, poems can be fun and silly, or they can be serious and dark. For instance, you can use a poem to express your love and happiness. Or you could use your poem to express your loneliness or your sadness. Poetry is very different from the stories that we read in books. They look different, they feel different, they sound different. The biggest difference that I've noticed when I've really looked closely at books versus poems is that poetry doesn't follow any rules at all. You see, when we write a book, or when we read a book, we have to pay attention to the rules of grammar. We have to look for characters, problems, and solutions. There's always going to be a setting in a book. And a story is going to have a beginning, middle, and end. But when we write a poem can be long or short. A poem can rhyme, or it doesn't even have to rhyme. A poem can have a character, or it could have no character at all. A poem can have a story, or it doesn't even have to have a story. And all of these things is why poems can be so much fun, because a poem can be anything that the poet wants. Now, even though there are no rules to writing poetry, there are things that good readers can do when reading a poem. These things help us understand the poem better, which will allow us to enjoy and appreciate the poem even more. That's why today we're going to discuss rhyme and rhythm. So, rhyme. Most of you are familiar with rhyme. Rhyme is when the ending of the lines sound the same. Rhythm's a little bit different. Rhythm is when the words in the poem have a specific beat when we read them, kind of like music. I'm going to read us a poem right now, and it's titled Since Hannah Moved Away. Since Hannah moved away, the tires on my bike are flat, the sky is grouchy gray. At least it sure feels like that since Hannah moved away. Chocolate ice cream tastes like prunes, December's come to stay. They've taken back the Mays and Junes since Hannah moved away. Nothing's fun to laugh about, nothing's fun to play. They call me, but I won't come out because Hannah moved away. So I would like to talk about the rhyme and the rhythm that we've noticed in this poem. But before we can do that, we've got to understand what makes up a poem. So the first thing that I want us to look at is a group of lines called a stanza. You can tell right here that this stanza is created by 4 lines grouped together, almost like a paragraph. If we take a step back, we can see that there is stanza 1, stanza 2, and stanza 3. So this poem is made of 3 stanzas, each that have 4 lines apiece. Now, if we zoom in on one of these stanzas, the tires on my bike are flat, the sky is grouchy gray. At least it sure feels like that since Hannah moved away. I want you to look at lines 1 and 3. If we look at the end of those lines, we've got the words flat and that. Flat and that sound the same, so they rhyme. Then if we look at lines 2 and 4, the words at the end of those lines, gray and away. Those 2 words rhyme as well. So the last thing that I would like to discuss is rhythm. Rhythm is the sing-songy way that a poem feels when we read it. Every poem is going to have a different rhythm based on the words that make it up. And so you've got to pay attention to it when you read it. And so that's exactly what I want you to do as we read Edward the Emu. I want you to listen for the rhyme and the rhythm. Okay, happy reading.